Mr. Riley here with our next topic on operations with integers, and we're looking at multiplying integers. Multiplying positive and negative numbers, looking at page 71 in the book. So your little real world example thing is balloons going up and down and how fast they ascend and descend. We'll talk about that later. So multiplication. Multiplication is repeated addition. You may have learned that back in third grade when you learned multiplication. So, 2 times 4 is 4. 2 added to itself 4 times. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So, and I'll show you a little diagram here. And this can explain to you how when you multiply a negative number times a positive, your answer is going to be a negative number. 3 times negative 40 is 3 negative 40s added together. And so if you add negative plus negative plus negative, you get a negative. Okay? So rule number 1 for multiplying integers when the signs are different, okay? And they also explain here that it doesn't matter whether the negative is in the front or the back, what order it's in, because multiplication is commutative, which means that you can change the order of multiplications and the answer is the same. So the rule is multiply 2 integers with different signs, the product, the answer is always negative. Here's examples. Negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Okay, so you multiply the numbers, the sign. If the 2 factors are different signs, the answer is negative. So some quickies for you to do here. 7 times negative 8. Negative 56. And negative 6 times 12. Negative 72. All right. So when the signs are different, the product is negative. What about when the signs are the same? Now, this rule is a little bit more difficult to get to in a real tangible example. But what they can do is use this table. So you have negative 5, which is a negative number that you're multiplying, and you multiply it by a positive 2, then a 1, then a 0. So in this table, you see this factor keeps going down by 1. And as you do that, you have 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Then 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And then so you can see on this side of the table, the product, the answer keeps going up by 5. Well, that means that when this gets to negative 1 and negative 1 times negative 5, your answer is positive. Okay, so it's not really as intuitive as the other rule, but the rule here is that if the 2 signs of the 2 factors are the same, negative times negative, then your answer is positive. Okay, of course, the first example up here at the top of the page, this is, third grade multiplication, right? Before you knew what a negative sign was. Positive times positive is positive, just like it was in third grade. Negative times negative, also positive. Okay, here's a couple of examples done out for you. Negative 5 times negative 7, positive 35. And negative 8 times negative 14 is positive 112. 2 got it's for you to do. Negative 5 times negative 11, positive 55. And negative 13 times negative 4. No calculators for these. So if you have to, you can do the sort of distributive property and do 4 times 10 plus 4 times 3. Or maybe do 2 times 13 is 26, and 2 times 26. That's how you get your answer here of 52. 4 times 13 is 52. Negative times negative, the answer is positive. The signs are the same. The product is positive. Okay, so that's the rules for multiplication. Different signs, answer is negative. Same signs, answer is positive. All right, so there's a real world example here. An airplane descends at 175 feet per minute. What is the change in altitude after 5 minutes? So we get some good vocabulary here. Descends means to go down, right? That's when the plane is coming down. So down like this. So if you have something descending, then it is making a negative change. So descending 175 feet per minute is represented by a negative number. And if it's negative 175 per minute, 5 minutes, multiply those together, and you get that the airplane has gone down 875 feet in that 5-minute time frame. So real world problem that causes, that requires you to do a multiplication of positive and negative numbers. All right, so here's one for you to do. Scuba diver descends, there's the same word again, from the surface, 7 feet per minute. After 15 minutes, what is the scuba diver's depth? Hopefully not death. What is the scuba diver's depth going to be after 15 minutes? Write a multiplication expression, then find and interpret the product. Ooh, I don't know if I did that in my answer. Let's find out. So first, what is the multiplication expression? First, we know that descends means a negative number. So the multiplication expression is negative 7 feet per minute times 15, right? So that's your multiplication expression. And the answer, negative 75 feet. So when it says to interpret the answer, you really should say that something like now the diver is at negative 75 feet or 75 feet below the surface. 75 feet below the surface. That would be the interpretation of what negative 75 feet means. Okay. 75 feet below the surface, the important words to use there. All right. What else do we have here in multiplication? Well, sometimes you're required to multiply more than one number together. Okay. So there's two different strategies you can use here. And these talk about the associative and commutative property. Now, I will tell you that we skipped this topic. Okay. Typically, we do a lesson on associative and commutative property. I think you've seen these before. If not, we'll do a quick, give you the IXL on lesson on them, and you can work it that way. They're pretty simple. So the associative property works for addition or multiplication, and that just means that if you have more than two things that you're doing adding or multiplying, you can group them in any way you want, right? So you can do the first two things, multiply, and then multiply that answer times the third number, or you can do the second and the third number first, and then multiply that by the first number. Okay, so it doesn't matter what order you do these multiplications in, how you group them, that it doesn't matter because multiplication follows the associative property. The commutative property says it doesn't matter what order you do them in. 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. Okay, so that again works for addition or multiplication. And in this case, then you can change the order of the negative 5 and the 12 here if you wanted to multiply the negative 4 and the negative 5 first. So what this does is it gives you strategies for, you can pick the two easier things to multiply. Again, no calculators for these problems. So what things are the easiest for you to come up with the right answer? Sometimes it's take the negatives and multiply them together so that your answer is positive. Or it might be just that the numbers are easier to multiply in one sequence rather than another. Okay, so here they did negative 4 times 12 times negative 5. My answer would be this would be the easiest thing to do is to do the negative 4 times negative 5 first, because that gives you positive 20, and 20 times 12 is an easy one to do in your head. 48 times 5, not so easy to do in your head. Okay, you can still do it. 40 times 5 is 200, plus 8 times 5 plus 40 gives you 240. But I think this one's easier. So pick an order that makes it easier. All right, you get a chance to do a couple of them here. I don't really care how you do them. Just try to use one of these strategies and come up with your answer. Here to 4a, negative 7 times 9 times negative 6. So what I chose to do was to do 7 times 6. Negative times negative gives me a positive answer. So that's 42. And then 42 times 9, that's 40 times 9, 360 plus 2 times 9, 18. So 378. That's your answer for that one, 378. And it's positive because these two negatives, when you multiply them together, turns out equals a positive, right? Signs are the same. The product is positive. 4b, -3 times -4 times -5. My strategy on this one is to do the 4 times 5 first, because that gives me 20, which is an easy number to multiply by, right? So positive 20, and then that times -3, and that gives me an answer of -60. And you could have done it the other way. -3 times -4 is 12, and 12 times -5 is -60. Perfectly fine. Or over here, if you did 7 times 9 first, I got 63, and 63 times 6 also will give you this. Just different approaches to solve these problems. All right, well, now that we have some multiplication abilities here, we can start doing some algebraic expressions with positive and negative numbers, okay? And you can use the rules for multiplying to simplify and to evaluate algebraic expressions. So first is just to simplify, okay? They're not telling you, in example 5 here, they're not telling you what values to put in for A and B. So A and B need to still be there in your answer, but you are simplifying this by doing all of the multiplications that you can. So there's a -7 and a 4 here. And again, because it's all multiplication, you can put them in any order you want. So you can multiply -7 times 4 and get -28. The A and the B, you can't do anything with them. They just stay there. So your answer here, this is a simplified expression, -28AB. Again, don't put any multiplication signs in there. Don't need parentheses either when you're doing number times letter or letter times letter. You can just put them right next to each other. That always means multiplication. All right, so some got it's for you to do. Got it, 5a, -3 times 6y. Simplify this expression. -18y is the simplified expression, just doing the multiplication. Signs are different. Answer is negative. 5b. That's going to be -27, -9 times 3, and x and y. Now, if you put dots in between these, that's okay. You can put them in parentheses, but there's no reason to. Again, letters next to each other and numbers right next to letters always means multiplication. So this is the stylish way to write these expressions. All right, let's evaluate the expressions now. So now they're going to tell you what values to substitute for the variables that are in your expression. So you got 3xy. That means 3 times x times y. And then they tell you what to put in for x and y, a 2 and a -6. So 3 times 2 times -6. This is your substitution step. Again, as I've said before in these types of problems, this step is required. Okay, you must write the substitution step. Just putting the numbers in for the letters, putting them in parentheses, really required when it's a negative number that you are substituting, okay? Because otherwise you can get in trouble. You'll see these sometime later on, okay? But you must put that, you should, when you substitute the value in, put it in parentheses. Okay, so now you can do this multiplication in any order you want. 3 times 2 is 6 times -6 gives me positive times negative, so the answer is -36. All right, so now here are two for you to do. 2rs, if r equals 5 and s equals -10. So after the substitution step here, it's going to look like this. 2 times 5 times -10. Use parentheses for multiplications of numbers, or you could put a dot there. Do not use an x. We don't use x for multiplication anymore. And now you can evaluate this. It's easy enough. 2 times 5 is 10 times -10. So you don't have to write any other steps here. It's positive times negative, so the result is -100. And 6b, for AB, if A equals -8 and B equals -4. So your substitution step, okay, your substitution step is going to look like this. 4 times -8 times -4, both in parentheses because they're negatives. If you don't put the parentheses here, it can end up looking like subtraction, and that, of course, will give you a wrong answer, so you don't want to do that. Okay, now what order do you want to do this multiplication in? Doesn't really matter, I guess. I can do 32 times 4, or I can do 16 times 8. I don't even remember what I did here. I did -8 times -4 to get rid of the negatives, because negative times negative is positive. And then 4 times 32, that's 4 times 30, 120, plus 4 times 2 is 8, so 128. All right, and that's it. So that's multiplication. Again, the rules, very simple. If the signs are the same, then your answer is positive. And if the signs are different, then your answer is negative.